Yes, everyone, welcome back to the channel. Middle of this Manchester United crisis, and it just keeps progressing, doesn't it? I had a bit of an incident yesterday, and I've potentially lost the top of one of my fingers. Um, you can see a little bit of blood still seeping through here. If you would like to see the photo of what that looks like, drop a like, and we'll maybe talk about it a little bit later on. I actually missed. Paddock won 10-0 yesterday, and I missed the fucking game. But there was like half a dozen people travelled over from Ireland for it. Absolutely sensational. So there was some good football played this week. I just haven't seen it quite just yet. But it is what it is. Let's get stuck straight into everything that's been going on with Manchester United, and yet another day and yet another statement from the club. So, in terms of Antony, Manchester United acknowledges the allegations made against Antony. Players who have not participated in international matches are due back training on Monday. However, it has been agreed with Antony that he will delay his return until further notice in order to address the allegations. As a club, we condemn acts of violence and abuse. We recognise the importance of safeguarding all those involved in the situation and acknowledge the impact these allegations have on survivors of abuse. Antony made a statement. Got more statements than fucking goals at the moment. I've agreed with Manchester United to take a period of absence while I address the allegations made against me. I want to reiterate my innocence and the things I've been accused of, and I will fully cooperate with the police. Antony remains on full pay. There is no timescale for his return. The decision was signed off by Richard Arnold after talks with Erik ten Hag. So my own thoughts on this is, as frustrating as this is for sure, really think that the club have to treat him the same way they treated Mason Greenwood, and unfortunately I think suspension is the correct thing to do in this instance. I think that these things can affect the team. They can certainly affect the individual, and I think you would expect any investigation to impact the individual. But can you imagine going to the likes of Anfield away with this sort of thing hanging over the team? It could potentially create an environment that ends up impacting on results. So I think it's the correct decision. Brazil obviously have dropped him from the Brazil squad over it. I think United kind of had to follow as well. Darren says there's flashes outside the window. Yeah, it just started absolutely tipping down. I've just had to dry the top of the counter in there because the window was open and it's just all flung in the mixer. So yeah, I guess that there's going to be an investigation into this one. I just hope it's not going to take anywhere near the length of time that the Greenwood one did, because it wasn't good for Mason's career. And I certainly don't think it'd be good for Antony's career for it to go down the same sort of level that it's been going through. So let's hope for a quicker resolution. Hopefully he's innocent. But, I have no idea. I'm not privy to a single one iota of the facts. And there's obviously slightly different circumstances with these as well, because he's no longer with the partner. And that, again, throws up its own questions and this, that, and the other surrounding it. Let's see what you guys are saying in the comments over that one. Statements on Twitter and not on the pitch, FC. Yep. Urawa says you can't really contemplate acquiring a brand like United and failing because the failure is far too public and excruciating in a deal like that. Ineos have said that, have they? Wowzers. Subshock says, my ham is calm. Truth being told, neither Sancho or Antony are really the standard that we need. I think they've not necessarily shown the standard that we need, but I think both are absolutely capable of showing it. Someone asked when Ahmad is back. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. King says they changed the statement pick from a corner flag to the training ground pick. Shows they just watch the shows. Interested in it because it's always... Can you hear that? That was a big thunder. Dexter says when a club is in crisis, we all know who takes the first fall. Does Ten Hag last the season? I'm going to answer that seriously because I think it does require answering seriously. And I think you're right. I think that there's quite often knee-jerk reactions, and when things are going wrong at a club, performances don't happen on the pitch. Sometimes a change of manager can feel like, because it's a chief executive role at a club, isn't it? Changing that one chief executive can feel like a clean slate at the club when you're realistically a manager has almost zero control over some of the things that have been happening for Manchester United off the pitch, at least at the moment, and even the things on the pitch, aren't necessarily all his doing. Especially when you look at some of the when you start looking into some of the stuff with what's going on with injuries and things like that, you can't necessarily always say this, that, and the other. Sky Viking says, if he's innocent, would I agree the women should face charges? I don't know enough about the cases, but my gut instinct is I think that would dissuade people from making allegations, and that's a positive thing in the light of false accusations. But I think that the amount of false allegations are probably swamped by real accusations, and I don't think anyone who is the genuine victim of a crime should be dissuaded from getting their justice. Unfortunately, it maybe should be against the law, but I don't know how you go about proving that. I think it's a very, very murky situation. Ralph says, Steve, Sancho and Antony for a combined 160 mil looks like disastrous business. Well, we've got a bit of that, don't we? Shane says Ten Hag is a 3-0 and an Onana suspension away from serious pressure. I've seen some people already sort of putting him under pressure a little bit, It's one of those. Anne says women do lie. They do. I think people saw what happened in the Amber Heard trial and were quite shocked at some of the lengths that fabrication was going to, maybe even on both sides of that thing there. But, I think that opened a lot of people's eyes. That doesn't mean that everybody should be treated the same way because of that one incident. I think it's one of those. Stevie says, what's my thoughts on someone pushing a negative press campaign against Manchester United? Not with Antony or Mason stuff. I mean, all the other stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if it happened, in all honesty. I wouldn't be surprised at all if it happened. It's one of those. Janine's in the comments. It's a right good storm. It is a right good storm. Somebody says, yes, Steve, how are we? I'm all right. They gave me morphine yesterday. That was fun. Would I loan Malloy to United for a few weeks? Was mint on Saturday. I mean, yeah, Kieran scored a hat-trick, didn't he? I have seen the goals. I have got my own little private link of the goals. And actually, there's some play that I'm not happy with in our goals, but I can't really complain at a 10-0 win, can I? I think it was just very clear that opposition don't belong in our league. We've had a 9-1 and a 10-0 this year, and I don't necessarily think we've played the worst team in our league just yet. So it's about time we had a few smackings like that, because we've been capable of it, but in the past we've never just been able to do it. Kevin says, TRA ban, what's my thoughts? Please fill me in, because I'm not 100% sure what has actually happened with the TRA and perhaps why it's been banned. ADH says, the game is fine margins and we could have a positive break if it wasn't offside by a margin. Do you know what I mean? Notch says, persuade him to turn off the room light. Well, it's this one is the one you need off. But then, I mean, wow, how grainy did that go, didn't it? Straight away. I have to turn this down a little bit to get. All right, welcome to Spooky Time with Steve. That's very grainy, by the way. I'm leaving this off so you can see the lightning. I'll turn it all back on in a second if it gets it up. Did I watch the Sideman charity match? No. I actually, well, I guess I could have. I was going to say, oh, there you go. Missed a little bit then. I was at hospital at the time. I fell off a wall, kicked a metal shutter, and the metal shutter swung round and slammed on my fingers, crushed 2 of them. So, it's one of those, isn't it? Oh, it's going off again. And that was at 9 a.m. yesterday morning, and I got to the ground about 5:30, something like that, maybe. Well, it's going. There you go. The grainy Blair Witch fucking late night podcast was worth it, wasn't it? Shane says 320p. It's high quality. It's just one of those, isn't it? Did I see the rugby yesterday? No, because it's rugby union and we don't care for rugby union. Turn that up. Can you turn the light back on, please? Yeah. Chris says, Steve, do I agree the way Rasmus can move centre backs will create space and Ahmad would love running into? Yeah, I think Ahmad's probably going to be someone that really benefits from what's probably going to happen now with Antony, I imagine. IR says the Spanish FA guy that kissed the player has just resigned. That was coming. TCG Hub says, Steve, do managers still put... Do managers still put recovering players in reserve games to gain sharpness? I think the last one I can remember doing that at United was Ten Hag. I would, though. But I know that that's obviously a very public game. There's matches going on in training during the week, like full 90-minute matches and stuff. So it's one of those. Anthony says, now that Giggs's charges have been dropped, should we welcome him back, or is he still persona non grata? I guess, yeah. I mean, these things are proper murky, aren't they? And it's a fucking nightmare, and it's a real shame that this is what we're going through at the moment. It's really taken away a lot of the joy of following Manchester United. Like, it's bad enough with what's going on with the Glazers, and you can't. Like, if I'm sitting here in a United shirt, some people in the comments would be kicking off. I'm in a Germany top, right? Some people would be kicking off in the comments. Why are you wearing a fucking United top? Why are you giving money to the Glazers? Some people kick off at the fact that we got games still. Why are you still giving the Glazers money and blah, blah, blah. I want to have a fucking connection with my club. And you can't do it. Well, these lot are the owners. For 18 years. It's a mad, weird, fucking... sort of abusive relationship that we've been in with them, isn't it? It's fucking annoying. I mean, are there thunderstorms outside? Yes, it might still. Yeah, there's one. Emil says Hoyland didn't do much against Finland, who had 11 men in their own area. That's very difficult to do anyway. Farhan says Gareth Southgate starts Maguire Hendo. I didn't see any of the England game, especially once I saw who was starting. I was like, yeah, probably not going to fucking do this. Japan got smacked by Germany yesterday. I haven't seen any football. I purposely just not watched any football this weekend. None. That's it. Can we do more videos with Rio? I mean, maybe. But what? James Parker says, evening Steve, looking good. 2-hour mega pod loading. I don't think so. I'd be surprised if this does an hour. Maybe it'd be half an hour, 40 minutes. But we will see where it goes, won't we? Not ruling anything out or anything. Green Zone 21 says, late 90s, early 2000s, growing up, wanted United to fail. Now the reality has come true. What, are you a City fan? Liverpool fan? What? Bolton fan? What? Shane says, there is no joy at the minute. Scotty says, Rio's being a coward. He probably chats with Greenwood every day, but he won't defend him. Well, right. I thought I'd made my comments fairly clear or my thoughts fairly clear on Mason, right? Charges were dropped. It isn't the same as being innocent, but charges were dropped. He is not at the... What's the word I'm looking for? He is no longer under any charges or investigation. However, I don't believe his actions look innocent. Now, obviously, I'm married. I have 2 children. If my wife had accused me of some of the things that, assuming Mason's partner was the one that's accused, because we don't know for sure, but I think we're supposed to pretend we don't know for sure. Look, if my significant other had accused me of some of the things that Mason had been accused of, and I wasn't guilty, there's no fucking way I would have stayed with that person. Read into that what you will. I don't believe those are the actions of someone that's innocent. Alex says, careful. Last time he did a 2-hour live on a Sunday, a country got invaded. Was that the last time we did a full 2-hour live? I'm not sure if it was, you know. Dan says, what's more likely? Steve watching the Rugby World Cup. Please refer to it as Rugby Union World Cup. It's fucking disrespectful to just call it the Rugby World Cup. Or United going a day without a club statement. Either or both a little bit, innit? Star-Lord says, how come it's only United who have to suspend their players who have cases? Don't know. We're always the news, aren't we? John says, hope you're okay. Mad accident. Gutted we missed Paddock Saturday. Fantastic result. Cheers, John. Abhinav says, Mason doesn't believe his actions are innocent. No one would say what he said if he was not guilty. And also, United's actions didn't make sense. If you're like, he's innocent of everything he was accused of, so we're going to fuck him off. Huh? That doesn't make sense. No one's really fucking pulled any of this apart and gone, hang on. What's going on here? BMW Racing says, if your fingers don't make it, you can have mine. Never use them much anyway. Do you want to see it? Do you want to see what it looked like afterwards? I can probably put it on screen if anyone does. Can you see us changing formation going forward with the lack of wide options? Yeah, I can actually, especially with the abundance of central midfield options. Always wrong says, he's innocent, bro. His accuser gave him a baby. If she forgave him, the fans should get their heads out their asses. Never as a username been more fucking accurate. Dexter says, simple cues. United brand affected by controversies every other year. And Europe for Champions League only every alternate year or so. How the hell is the club 10 billion worth? Do you know what I mean? Did I see the UFC? No, again, last night saw fucking nothing. Can we do something tomorrow on the TRA? It'd probably be better coming from the fan channel rather than me directly. But if we have, yeah, probably. Liam says, how long do I think it would take for United's reputation to get back to where it was in the early 2000s, world leading and actually standing for something? What's really funny is, I saw a guy do a video which he's titled as a response to me. And it was 30 minutes of well, I'm going to be honest, quite fucking racist waffle. Very derogatory. Seems to me, at least, anyway, that he's suggesting that people of black origin can't be real British or Mancunians, which is fucking mental. This is a white guy in America, by the way, who's talking about how different cultures don't assimilate and this, that, and the other. This is a white guy in America, by the way, hence not a Native American. Not really thought about that one too well. Honestly, the video is bananas, and it seems like his umbrage with me is the fact that I mentioned some of the things that I think United are doing wrong is how we didn't have a women's football team. And then at the very end of this 30-minute fucking waffle, he mentions how he hasn't watched the entire video. He's just seen this little clip, which the fan channel did. And he's decided to respond to it. Maybe instead of spending 30 minutes talking utter fucking cheese, you maybe should have watched the actual video and got a little bit of context about it. Because even, to be honest, even the standalone statement of one of the things that was wrong with United is, you know, we were forced into getting a women's team back because we didn't have one. Like, how fucking right-wing and redneck are you that you think that's a negative thing? He was calling me woke for thinking we should have a women's team. Well, to give you an extra layer of context, my sister was at Manchester United as a girl, and she was playing for the girls' team. And when she got to under 18, she had to leave, and she left and she went to Oldham Athletic. The reason she went to Oldham Athletic, there wasn't a women's team for her to go into. The reason there wasn't a women's team for her to go into, because when the Glazers came, they killed it. They used to have Manchester United ladies. That was killed, and now they have Manchester United women brought back amidst like this sort of recent push that there's been for women's teams and stuff like that. But United were very late to it under the Glazers, and they killed it. One of the things that they killed along with all of the feeder clubs and things like we had in Antwerp, and there was one in Sweden, I think, as well, and the link up there with Fluminense and all this sort of stuff. So apparently it's woke for thinking that women should have a Manchester United team. Daryl, is it raining? It is raining. Marcus, why do we need to have a women's team if we can hardly manage a men's team? Why shouldn't you have a women's team? Wesley says we shouldn't have a women's football team. It's PC bollocks. How is it PC bollocks? Why isn't it aspirational for young girls to want to grow up and play for Manchester United women's team? How is it PC bollocks, by the way? I actually can't believe I'm hearing that. Charged Words said, did I see Casey Stoney getting a ridiculous red card? Yeah, she flicks the ball, doesn't she? And they come and send her off. Yeah, I don't get that. Daniel says, I wouldn't have a women's team. It's just a money-burning enterprise. Women don't care about women's football. Why should I? Well, no one's asking for anyone to outspend maybe what it brings in terms of sponsorships and things like that. But there's a million other projects that lose money. Are you saying we shouldn't have a foundation as well? Foundation doesn't make money. Puts on training sessions and things for underprivileged kids in the area. Should we not have a Manchester United Foundation either? Do you know what I mean? Ridiculous. Simon says, have I ever tasted Dear Bless rum? Found it at Maker's Market round my way and wondered. I don't think I have, no. Alex says, we always get drama. All the other big teams just seem to be strengthening. Ten Hag has a massive task on his hands. Agreed. Giblik says, USA, nobody accused them of being intelligent. Yeah. Baraf says, did I watch the Antony interview? Felt like he was real and genuine in that. I haven't seen it, no. Jeff says, I think women's football is on the up. I think you're probably right in all that. Neil says, glad we have a women's team. Far more proud of them than the men's team. Incel's moment about a women's team just aren't a real fan. Look, yeah, as a Manchester United fan, I want our academy to do well. I want our women to do well. I hope that every single team that takes to the field wearing a Manchester United shirt wins and is successful. I don't understand I genuinely do not understand the issue with people not wanting one. I really, really fucking don't. Dead and Gone says, clearly a lot of this fan base is stupid. David said, if someone bid 10 billion to buy the club, do I think the Glazers would sell? Yeah, I absolutely think they would sell, but who's that fucking crazy? Joseph says, hey Steve, I think there's an issue with United's backroom staff, the physio, strength and conditioning, considering the amount of injuries, or I think it's more the amount of fixtures over the last year. I think it's almost certainly probably the schedule that we had in America coupled with the schedule that we had last year. Like, things are going to ping, especially with the size of the squad that we've got. Jack says, is it just bad luck that United have had Greenwood and Antony face allegations in such a short space of time, or is there something to do with a connection and culture of attitudes at the club? Well, considering Antony's surfaced prior to us signing him, I don't think you can necessarily say this is an issue that Manchester United have at the club. So it's probably just really bad luck, I imagine. Gary says, is there a known way the government step in and force a sale? No. I still don't actually understand the full logic behind what happened with Roman Abramovich. I really don't. When you look at the sporting institution of Manchester United being eroded in the manner that it has by the Glazers, and the money that's been taken out of this country, like, it's like almost theft. It's legal theft. So how the government hasn't stepped in and gone, when it got to $1 billion, like, enough is enough. Madness. Satchit says, the fact that we're still talking about women not having an opportunity shows there's not a long way. Still a long way. Yeah. great due diligence by the recruiting team. I'm pretty sure something like this happened when we signed Marcus Rojo as well. Like, he was like under investigation for fucking bottling someone. Yeah, like, can we not Google? Have we lost the ability to Google? Is there a job out there for a chief Googler? Scott says he was linked with Putin. Okay, but what does that mean? I mean, genuinely, what does that mean? Like, so because Putin invaded a country again, because this has happened previously with Georgia and that, like, why now? That's what I'm saying. Logically, it doesn't make sense. Scotty doesn't know, says Brit soldiers are nothing without Americans. Well, Americans are nothing without the technology and air support that they get. Honestly. I actually saw some American PT standards, and it's embarrassing. It's genuinely embarrassing. It's a fucking walk, and it's meant to be a run, and you do your running on a track. Wowzers. Trying to get some questions. Ralph says Sancho saying that there's been scapegoated takes some balls, considering his teammates like Maguire, Scott, Framley, Fred still to this moment take dogs abuse and they remain professional through. Yeah, I didn't like that line. I think his statement could have been so much better, and he could have come across so much better with his statement. Unless there's something else going on and he's talking more about something internally that we're not aware of, because looking from the outside, I don't believe Sancho's been made a scapegoat. I think there's been some question marks about his price and has he been valued for money, and I think that's a legitimate question because, like I've been saying for a while, like, has he been putting up consistent numbers and consistent performances in the team? No. Like, so I think there's legitimate questions around his performance, but I don't think you can say that he's been scapegoated. Gaming Midget says American soldiers on YouTube all asked say Brits are the best soldiers we've seen. Here's the difference. Americans will have one soldier doing one task with all of the technology and support that they need to do that. British will have one soldier doing 10 fucking jobs, probably because of budget. Freya says, evening, just started the video from the beginning. Absolutely want to see the state of your finger. I have a feeling it might get us fucking demonetized, you know. Somebody says Steer played against Shea Lacey last season with United under 16s, and he was just very greedy and got bollockings off his teammates for hogging and then looking for the ball. Maybe a one-off game. Interesting. Oh, Scotty doesn't know. Texting like he's been drinking. Says USA soldiers lead the way. British just follow drunkenly and beat each other over sports. It's called character building. Ralph says, forgive my ignorance. Why is my Manchester accent barely noticeable compared to someone like Jay? Because I spent time away from Manchester when I was in the army. There is a video. Let me find the title of the video. Give us a second while I Google it. Oh, this keyboard's not working. There's a title of a video kicking about somewhere. I'll share it on the community post a little bit later, where my accent is hilariously bad. And that's what my accent was like forever. It's just softened as I've got older. But it also softened when I was in the army. Because the army doesn't have an accent, does it? It's non-locational. It just is what it is. Barra says Sancho and Ten Hag set for talks tomorrow. Apparently, I'm surprised it's not happened before that, in all honesty. I really am. Lindelof told Swedish press that United players are still focused and calm. Team spirit is good. That could be a non-answer. You don't necessarily know if that's the truth. Like, Salford 6 says, favourite lager? I had some posh garbage facing Frog and Bucket last night. Was that in the Crown? Abhinav says, Notch made a meme out of your dim lighting setting. I'm sure he has, yeah. Very quick on the ball with that. Our military is the best, but we have got woke and weak recently because of the European influence recently. Why is it a European influence? Big B says, so sad you look forward to a new season and United are a mess every year. Yeah. Smithy says there's tons of accents in and around Manchester. There is actually, yeah. Yeah, it is a place that's got a right load of accents. Pig Riser says Sancho was utterly garbage in the cup final. Should never have played for the club again after that. Well, I don't know about that. Everyone can have a bad game, but yeah, I think the bad games outweigh the good games, and the great games have been few and far between. How long did I spend in the army? Almost 7 years. Salford 6 says Crown. It's like being in London, full of students. It's about to be Freshers Week in it, so there is going to be a big old influx of new people coming around. Dexter says, don't understand fans also, like, hate towards Mount, etc., given he's only played like 4 games. I think it's 2 games he's played, actually. Joe McCowan says that, Jesus Christ, that 30-minute video directed to you was absolutely bonkers. I watched it waiting for a point. There was no point. I think after about 11 minutes in is where it gets racist. After that, there's not even anything like entertaining about what he's saying. So you're like, yeah, just fucking get rid of him, man. Sean S says US Marines, Jarheads, tip of the spear, tip of the 8-week training. Hostad says, sorry if you've already spoken about this. Thoughts on Fatih potentially being up front for Brighton against us? I'm fucking worried about Brighton next week. Really am. Genuinely am. Really, really am worried about Brighton next week. Brighton and Bayern the next 2 weeks could be an absolute fucking shagging. Scotty doesn't know says, your comments on the USA are so misinformed. Come to the jiu-jitsu gym and let some American beef twist you up. Yeah, okay, let's fucking do that. Please direct me to anything that you believe is misinformed and I'll explain to you how you're fucking wrong. Stop watching Fox News. It's not good for your health. Scotty doesn't know says, so ignorant. You are, mate, but you can get better. Cantry says Ten Hag has had the toughest job of any Premier League manager in 2 seasons, when the most have had in 10 seasons. Scott doesn't know says US Marines do 8 plus 6 weeks. Point proven. Fuck me. Yeah, British Marines is 36 weeks, I think, something like that. Hostad says Ferguson being injured is a small positive, though. Oh, is it? Again, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen anything going on this weekend, football-wise. How do we change our reputation in the transfer market? Honestly, I think you're going to need a director of football, somebody like, a Mitchell to come in and really just carry their own reputation forward with it. Salford 6 says, if we lose next week, it'll be an utter pile on and chill with the Sozard shite in the comments. Who's saying that? Wesley says, Salford, Plastic Manx, North Manchester, Land That Time Forgot, East Manchester, think Shameless. Yeah, that's where I'm from. South Manchester, Educated. Not all of it. Not all of it. Yeah, South Manchester's a weird one because it's a mix of students, West Indies, Southern Asians. The one thing that you do get in South Manchester is fucking great food. Hasta La Vista says we could get destroyed against Brighton if I wasn't a United fan. I put a lot of money on them. Rebel says, how can Postecoglou turn Spurs around in a few weeks? See, one thing with Spurs is you can easily change what's going on with them by bringing in one player that's going to make a massive difference. They've had that player in pre-season. and he's changed up the formation. So there's a lot feels fresh and different when you do a few things like that. Am I I'm disappointed that ex-players have not slagged off the Glazer ownership? A little bit, yeah. Abhinav says, Souness attacked Hoyland. Right. How the fuck is Souness employed? His Antony, it's like having me on. It's like having me on and me pretending that I'm neutral and me just being me. Like, anytime Liverpool come up, I'm just going to fucking hammer them. And then I'm going to sit here pretending that I'm all fucking neutral about it. Absolutely ridiculous. Cal says, why are we letting prospects go for peanuts? That's my most annoying thing this summer, is how we've let some people go for just fucking nothing. Josh says, should we be more worried about Ten Hag walking in, say, 12, 18 months? Tuchel leaves Bayern, which doesn't seem stable there. Ten Hag's got history. Maybe, yeah. Paul says, I think we might be a better team without Antony or Sancho. It's Palestri time. It might be Mount off the right time. Lewis says, don't you think it's a disgrace how it's been nearly 16 years since we won the Champions League? Because we've only won 3 in our entire history. It's not a bigger... it's more of a problem that we haven't managed to mount a serious title charge in 10. Mark says, don't understand all the hate from Europeans. Not all of us call the game soccer because we know that rattles you guys. I don't give a fuck. It's not something I particularly use. But I don't give a fuck. Matt Busby called it soccer. There's a fucking book from Matt Busby called Soccer Coaching or something like that. Like, fucking whatever. Hostad says, is Ant Middleton a bullshitter? Or has he taken to the fame a bit much? No, I think Ant Middleton is fucking legit. He's one of the few people that's done both P Company and the Commando course and UK Special Forces. Whether or not like you necessarily agree with any of the stuff that he comes out with on social media, I don't think that takes anything away from the level he must have been as an operator, because clearly, like, there ain't many that have done all 3 of those courses. You know, whether he's a widge or not, he's a fucking hard one. Mike, that sounded, forget that. Mike says, I'm from Manchester, live in Cornwall. My accent is a cross between Manc, Cockney vibe, all going on. Yeah, moving somewhere different and just, sometimes it's just one word can really throw your accent totally off. When's the next time Clive Tilsey will be saying United are European champions? Do you know what? Last night, my daughter started getting into football a little bit. She went to the Paddock game yesterday with her cousins, and they watched the game and got to see 10 goals, which I've not seen or didn't see then. And I was watching the Fergie documentary last night, and I got her to watch the last 2 minutes with me, and she was going fucking bananas when we scored. I explained to her when the Grace scored, and then they kept having chances, like we need to score 2 to win. But yeah, it was fun times, and she started getting into it and started to understand it a little bit more. Any plans for Howson IRL this season? Yeah, so I mentioned it on Friday, in case people didn't hear it. We welcomed a new member of the staff called Spencer. He started a couple of weeks ago. We had a holiday already booked, and he's got a holiday booked again quite soon. Now, we were going to do a bit of an introduction to the IRL channel, where we sort of explain the sort of things we're going to be doing on the channel, and then I've kind of fucked it up a little bit because I'm not going to London tomorrow because I've got to wait for surgery. So I'm like, all they've done is tape these fucking things up and lead me to it. I've got to wait for a phone call tomorrow for surgery. So yeah, that's frustrating to say the least, but I'm not in London. So the plan was to do a bit of an introduction to the channel by way of showing you a bit behind the scenes of what a week looks like for me. So it had been going to London, to Rio's office on Monday for us to do the Vibe with 5 thing. Then it was going to be like, what does a Tuesday look like? So it would have been probably going for a run early doors on Tuesday, getting into the office, taking training Tuesday. Maybe we'll go for a hike on Wednesday. Thursday what that looks like, and then Friday's absolutely back to back with loads of videos, and then Saturday with the game. So that was a plan for what I was going to be doing for the next IRL video, and then there's a few more planned. We're looking at national free peaks, we're looking at Yorkshire free peaks, looking at all that sort of stuff. So that was what that video was. Back to the drawing board tomorrow while we figure out what the fuck's going on with this. What's the story about what happened with my fingers? Okay, so if you've seen any of the photos on the football team yesterday, there is a sign that says the home of Stretford Paddock, which goes above the tunnel. And there is a brick wall either side of the tunnel. I stood on the brick wall, and the gate can close one way and allow the people to walk out, and it can close the other way and I'll let people walk all the way around the front of the stadium and like lock the pitch off. As I was going to go get onto the wall to sort of put that sign up, one of the top bricks of the wall come off, and I've kicked the door. I've got hold of the thing with my hand. I've kicked the door. My wife's on her knees in front of the tunnel, and it's a heavy metal door. And as it swung round, I've panicked and shouted to her, like, "Watch your head," and not realised, I'm holding on to the other side of it. It's slammed on my fingers, and it's crushed two of them. The nail's gone on both. I think the ring finger, it's a partial amputation, but I think that one will be okay. I think the tip of the middle finger is probably gone. One of those. Darren says, please no pictures, I'm eating breakfast. So yeah, it was painful. I said, I had one of them pens, little pen things, got like black crystals in the top of it. It's like gas and air sort of thingy. That was fucking belting. But yeah, that bit of morphine, job's a good one. Sulphur 6 Man and Ash's Pod is the best thing on YouTube at the moment, I reckon. Any news on the unedited stuff being released? It's not my decision. Stu says, Dave shown us the pictures before, it was interesting. Would I do it again if it meant the Glazers getting sold? Ooh. Yeah, I probably would, to be honest. Do you know what? It just... I think I've got some nerve damage because it's fucking sore, and I was really tapping out as a guy was sort of just taping them back together a little bit yesterday. But the thing that's annoying me the most is you're kind of keeping your hand a little bit curled up at the moment all day, and anytime I want to go and do something, the stretching out of my fingers puts an absolute lightning bolt through my hand, and I can't explain it. I'm assuming it's something to do with the nerves, but fuck me, it hurts. Is Mrs. Howson okay? Yep, didn't hit her because I fucking shouted her. But we lost our photographer for the game yesterday because she had to take me to hospital. And we went to one hospital and then they referred me to another, and then all they did there was tape it up and then fuck me off and then tell me to wait to come back. Kieran says, what are the top 4 chances of all the injuries, assault charges and that starting this season? Diminishing, I would say. Taylor says nerves. See, I was thinking it's nerves. That's the problem. It's just, if I start to slowly straighten my hand out, it's not too bad. But it's one of those. One second. Rahul says, Steel of the show, when can we see Stretford Paddock in the Sidemen matches? Here's the thing, right? People don't understand any of these levels. I think Sidemen wouldn't fare much better than the opposition that we played yesterday if we played them. Which was 10-0. I think we absolutely fucking smoke them. From what I've seen in those games, the little highlights that find their ways onto social media and stuff, they would be no fucking where near our level. I think it would be at least 5, but quite likely it could be about 10. Being genuine. Caston said, "Good evening, Steve. I just joined. What did I miss?" We spoke about the statements made from both the club and Antony, and that's it really. And just waffled a load of rhubarb. Notch says United players always break their metatarsals. Fans break the metacarpals. Dexter says, if Paddock make it to the EPL pyramid, what do you mean by the EPL pyramid? We're technically in the English football pyramid right now. We're at level 13. Nino says, I got mallet finger a few months ago. For a while I thought it would heal straight, but it takes time. Best of luck. The thing that's annoying me is, like, I know now it's gonna fucking delay me with training and this, that, and the other, and that's pissing me off. I mean, it's painful, like, but it's one of those. IR says, how far are Paddock from hashtags level? Hashtag are very fucking good. They're actually really legit. And I think what confuses people is their Saturday teams, their semi-pro teams, and then there's Sunday league teams and stuff. And because they're all on YouTube and they're all sort of given the same level of presentation, people think it's the same sort of thing. Notch says, Paddock beat hashtag. Okay, it was the reserves. Yeah, last summer we played their reserve side. Now, their reserve side technically plays about 3 levels higher than we play at. But we saw... we did beat their reserves last year. It was quite an even game, but we beat them. I think if we played hashtag, we would lose quite comfortably. They're playing at level... Well, they're playing at step 3, which the next promotion for them puts them in Conference South, National League South. So they're currently in... is it the Southern Prem or Isthmian Prem? One of those. Yamika says, Arsenal fan here, you're a knobhead. But I love your stuff. Keep up the good work. Cheers, I think. Where are we from them? Quite a way, to be fair. Quite a fucking way. How does Paddock compare to a Sunday League team like UTR? Is that under the radar? I think under the radar are a bit good. They're basically an ex-academy gaff, aren't they? I haven't seen too much of them. But I'd back us against any of the YouTube teams that's out there. Any of them. And I'm not including hashtag in that now because, they're in the FA Cup, they're in the FA Vars and all that sort of stuff. But I back us against any of the rest of them. Richard says, are there any out-of-contract players you would try and sign? You mean at United? I don't know, Jonathan says, if someone handed me 20 million to spend on Paddock, what would I spend it on? I would spend it on facilities because there's not enough facilities. 20 million, I could probably get a little stadium built, probably a couple of training pitches, and then I'd invest it in... I like the American college system and the mentality it has surrounding sports, and I would try and create something like that in this area. How do I improve Paddock's skill level? See, that's the one thing I'm wrestling with at the moment. Individual skill stuff at the minute. Speaking to Oppa about coming down doing some stuff like that. We've got another ex-United player potentially joining us, which I was hoping to speak to on Saturday until I decided to fucking ruin everyone's day. My job is to get the team to win games. The way I do that is through team training. So everything that I'm involved with really is shape. Now, the under-21s, the reserves, and the subsequent teams that we have is it's maybe a bit more of their job to raise the technical level of players individually. My job is down to I got to get the shape right. I got to get the tactics right. I got to get how we press together right. I got to get how we play out right. That's the way it is. Hendrik says up the RH will be amazing if Ryan come down and help out. Ryan's been down a few times actually and done some stuff with us. Pig Riser says Brian McClare. Brian has offered to come and do some sessions, some finishing sessions and stuff like that. We just need to book him in. Someone just above that has just mentioned fitness. Fitness is big at our level, and my players don't like it. But we have to do the fitness as well because, I mean, yesterday the opposition fucking gave up after 20 minutes. So that's what separates it, isn't it? Why don't I do these live chats post game as much as I used to before? Because I got like 4 or 5 videos to do after a game. So it's hard work to just sit here for an hour and do this. I'd rather do the shorter video, get my thoughts out. There's too much going on, and especially when I've got a game myself on a Saturday, it's really difficult to do. Stephen says, myself and my daughter enjoyed our first paddock game yesterday. Looking forward to the next one. Awesome. Mike says, paddock mid-season trip to Cornwall for a few friendlies. I'd love to come get in the mix, yeah. Can you get a beer watching paddock at Droylsden? Yes, you can. You can stand on the terrace with a beer, which is something I love at this level of football. And player movement is key, says Brian. Yep. Sorry, Paul. What happens if I randomly spot a crazy wonder kid and I like to sell them off for money? No. So you can sell players when you contract players, which is fair, right? If you're going to give this player a wage, and the wage could be not a lot, 50 quid a week, maybe 100 quid a week, as long as it was a contract. Once you have a player under contract, then yeah, you can sell that player's contract. Otherwise, there is what's known as the 7-day rule. So non-contract players, i.e. all of mine, a team from a higher level comes in and puts them on 7 days notice. On the 8th day, they're allowed to talk to them. Much like the way it works in Premier League, though, you don't talk to a player until you have permission. Well, you spoke to the agent. People just speak to them, don't they? So, the letter's usually the last thing to go in before an approach, even though it's technically meant to be the first thing that comes into it. Ellis says, thoughts on Droylsden's revival. I'm really pleased for him. Obviously, I'm from Droylsden. Been lucky enough that we get to use the Butcher's Arms ground, and really thankful for Dave for allowing us to use it. I'm going to be honest, I didn't think they were going to come back at one point. I know Dave always said they were gonna, but it just felt after a couple of years, it didn't feel like the momentum was there. So really pleased to see him back in the mix, and it looks like they've actually fucking kicked on a little bit as well. So I wish them well. I can't wait to see where they end up, and hope that it's made the town miss the team a little bit as well. Because I think being in the shadow of United and City, being in Droylsden, it's really a really difficult place to try and operate a football club. When you've got 2 massive Premier League teams right on your doorstep. But hopefully that revival has allowed the town to miss the team a little bit and they can get back in the mixer for them. Stay OFLA, sorry, says, stay a bit weird, really enjoy your content even though I'm an Arsenal fan. Watched the transfer of Joe the other day. Do I not think Rice has been our best player so far? Not in the games I've seen. Absolutely not. When's the next home game for Paddock? I think it's the 23rd September, I think. JB8 says, Steve, lost the top of my knuckle and my middle finger. Like the whole thing is gone, and I'm praying for you. So Kyle says, if I ever come down to Bristol or North Somerset, love to come watch the team. We with the way it is, we end up getting used. We end up playing a lot just within our region because of the way the league systems are worked and that. Good morning from Sydney. Good morning. Witterbird says, does it ever feel like some of the media, etc. staff couldn't sell a used car? Well, the backroom staff, yeah, big time. James says 23rd, more United. Yep, 23rd of September is our next home game. The rose of Manchester we can find on the Detroit flag. It's also the Lancashire rose. Runa says, Amrabat from the start. Oh, fucking hell, I hope so. Because if he doesn't, he's ready, isn't he? Any thoughts on England rugby? None. Carl says, you get sorted with the hand. Sancho and Antony, not a good thing for now. But maybe Mount can show us something off there. What you reckon? I'm hoping so, yeah. Simon says, hashtag in the Isthmian South. Might go and watch them play Chatham in the league as I live near Chatham. Yeah, hashtag are really fucking good. I mean, the run they went on last year, was it 23 consecutive wins, something along those lines? Fucking wow. That's unbelievable. That's really, really good. So yeah, I mean, I find it a fascinating project, and I know they've just had a young lad on loan. That's also the England under-17s goalkeeper. Fucking brilliant. I think it's fascinating watching, where they are and how they've grown and that. Damien says, feel sorry for Ten Hag. There's always drama at United. We need the circus to end already. Witterbird says, what's the first thing I would ever do if I owned United? Ah, shit. I can't really hurt that. The first thing I would do if I owned United... I don't know if it would be the very first thing I do, but I would renovate the cliff. I would finish off the stadium. I would put all standing in the bottom of the Stretford End and East End. I would get a megastore and a presence, maybe even an office in the centre of Manchester. The fact that there's no fucking Manchester United presence in the centre of Manchester is a piss take. I mean, even some sort of like sponsoring some bars. Why isn't there like a handful of bars that people know as the United pubs to go to in the city centre? Like, you have to kind of do a funky handshake with people to find them out. Like, and I'm not necessarily saying that they should be big touristy pubs or whatever, but something. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Janine says you'll be able to stream Paddock games live soon. Yes, we will. So we had a Veo camera, and the Veo cameras died on us after less than 100 matches. But we've got a new camera called a Speedio or a Spadio, which has got the option for us to be able to live stream it to our members. So we will be live streaming it to our members as soon as we do that. Josh says, can I explain the hatred and rivalry between rugby league and rugby union? It boils down to classism in England. Now, if you're from the south, you might not be aware of it. If you're from the north, you probably are. Rugby league does itself no favours. In the late 90s, early 2000s, rugby league was fucking enormous, and it was getting fantastic crowds. And it had a nice schedule where you knew that there would be games at certain times on certain days, and it didn't clash with football. Because the worst thing that rugby league could do is try and go head-to-head with football, especially with some of the cities that it's in. Rugby league in England is basically across the M62, so that is from Hull to Liverpool, and then you've obviously got Leeds and Greater Manchester, Wigan and St Helens and all that lot in between. Avoiding the times when football is on is the best move, because a lot of your fan base watches both, and the TV audience is going to watch football over rugby league. The Rugby Football League had to fuck with it. So the amount of football I watched sort of increased, the amount of rugby league I watched decreased. And in part, a lot of that was because as a semi-casual rugby league fan, I couldn't keep up with the fucking rule changes and the format changes because they had to fuck with it every single year. Imagine if the Champions League had new rules every single year. And it's like, oh yeah, you can lose, you can come third, and then you're going to get this like lucky dip thing, and you get back into the semi-finals. Like, just what are you doing? Stop fucking about with it. Leave it. If it's hard for people who are actually giving a fuck about the sport to follow, then you're doing it wrong. Just stop messing with it. Then there's this weird playoff thing now where it's like 8 teams at the playoffs, there's only 12 in the league. So you're just fucking diminishing the entire league system, really, because now, like, the playoffs is all that matters, rather than it being like the top 4, top 5, like it was when it was actually, you know, competitive to get into this fucking Super 8 thing's bullshit. Like, so rugby league didn't do itself much favours, but in the late 90s, early 2000s, the crowds rugby league was getting was fucking massacring what rugby union crowds would get. But it was always listed below rugby union on anything. Even though alphabetically, it should be the other way around. And I think I'm right in saying this, at the time, it was the second or third, I can't remember. It was either above cricket or just below cricket. But it was like right up there in terms of the spectator and participation sport across the fucking country. But because the international game's not as strong, and because it's deeply rooted in universities and public schools and the class system in this country, rugby league was always seen as this weird little fucking northern game that no one else really gives a fuck with. But everything sort of went into rugby union and the Six Nations and this, that, and the other, despite the fact that they could never do something on the scale or success of what Super League was back then before they started fanning about with it. Like recently, Tony Adams has been the fucking president of the RFL. Why? Why has Tony Adams been the fucking president of the RFL? It's absolutely ridiculous. Pig Riser's just dropped in a super chat, says thanks for all the work. Cheers, pal. So the rivalry exists because it's a completely different skill set. Now, I played rugby union when I was in the army, partially because the rugby league, I played for the army at rugby league, but I played rugby union for like my regiment and stuff. And I could play a game of rugby union and then play another game of rugby union, make about fucking 8 tackles and be happy days. Rugby league, and I was a fucking good rugby league player, I'd make 30, 35, 40 tackles in a game. It's just a whole different fucking sport. John Kelly says union's going a bit soft. Mike says, mate, rugby flooded in Cornwall, football secondary. Isn't Cornwall the only place without a professional football team? SPRO Gaming says, how do I think Alex Ferguson would handle the Twitter situation? Don't know. Green Zone says, is it 6 tackles in rugby league? Yes. Janine's commented saying on the app update, I guess some people have been asking about the app. So when Twitter/X changed, instead of you being able to access the Twitter feed, so the club's Twitter feed is like the basis of most of the content things on the app. Twitter wants 10 grand a month for you to be able to use that API. So we're now trying to see if we can use Instagram or some other way to sort of feed the club content in the app, because otherwise, like, we won't have an app and our entire plans have to go more fucking blah blah. Jed says Union is more internationally renowned. Why is that? Victorian Britain's fucking army officers and toffs taking it across the world. That was that one. Smithy says league has an identity crisis. It does. Jed says rugby union is mostly posh private schools in Ireland too, but we're good at it, so we don't care. Not says my school taught rugby union, wouldn't even touch league, which is way more exciting. Yep, especially down south, that's the game. Smith says league was great in the 90s. Correct. And it never had the international profile. No, it didn't. Ash says huge sponsorship. Now, yeah, I mean, I'm not blowing my own fucking trumpet but I think I could get better sponsorship deals for rugby league than rugby league has managed to get. It's a very arrogant statement, Steve, so I'll explain it. So last year or the year before, maybe a couple of years ago, Papa John's Pizza sponsored Super League. Super League. Potentially the second or third biggest spectator sport in the fucking country. Wow. They're the title sponsor, like the Barclays Premier League. Correct, exactly the same way. So it was the Papa John's Super League. How much was this sponsorship deal worth? What? How much was it worth? Yeah, like how much did the clubs get for that? How much does the league get for that? What did they get? What? Oh, they get free pizza at the end of the game. Not even joking. Second or third biggest sport in the fucking country, title sponsor of its number one professional league, free pizza for the players at the end of the game. Get a fucking grip. Get a fucking grip. It's absolutely disgusting. And then there's also the way that England rugby seems to be funded. Like they have coaches that go around and teach it in schools all over the place. And it's paid for. You see them driving around in these like 4x4s with England rugby up the side, and they've got free shit to give away to everybody. Like, it's madness. Pizza is good. Pizza's fantastic, right? But what a fucking madness. What an absolute madness. Nikhil says, in New Zealand, rugby union is king, but I love league. Played when I was younger, but you're right, completely different game. Yep. Alex Bailey says, use Freds. Freds being so brand new, doesn't necessarily have developed APIs that are able to be used by elsewhere. Also, there's no fucker on there, so it's quite difficult to do. Had to pay extra for the stuffed crust. You probably fucking did, you know. Hostad says, does that mean if there's one with a betting sponsorship, you might get free bets? It was sponsored by Betfred for a while. Obviously, Betfred's local. I don't know what the deal was with that, but like, I know somebody that was working with and alongside the RFL to deliver sponsorships, and like, they're genuinely fucking clueless in terms of trying to deliver what, you know, should be considered a fucking massive sport, but it's treated like it's fucking amateur. It's scandalous, in all honesty. Like when you see man of the match in Uruguay being handed a goat. Jed says in Ireland it's GAA in ordinary schools, rugby in private schools. You do get some football in schools, but it's mostly local clubs in a street game. See, that's mad to me. Andrew says NRL is where it's at. It kind of always has been. Konana says this. It sounds as though it's not much union doing anything wrong, but rather league continually shooting itself in the foot. Sounds like United. It nailed it in the 90s. The marketing was on point. It got in bed with Sky nice and early, so the games was always on Sky. There was clearly money involved because there was a lot of big players coming over from Australia to get a payday in England. The crowds were big. You know, I'm pretty confident in saying I think at the JJB, Wigan Rugby League, we're getting more than Wigan Football Team were. And Wigan Football Team at the time, probably Championship, League One at least. I remember Bradford getting 18, 20,000 watching them. Salford was always small. It's a small city. With a big football following. But, you know, you could get 3, 4, occasionally a 6 or 7,000 down at Salford. When I've been recently at Salford, it's fucking 3,000 or so. No, it's sad because it's a fucking great game. And again, there's no penetration in sports. In school, sorry, with the sport. Like, where's the fucking budget going? Like, for me, it should be the fucking government doing it rather than the sports themselves having to do it. Like, there's no fucking sports in schools. It's absolutely ridiculous. Can't we stream it on Paddock FC YouTube? Can't we stream what on Paddock FC YouTube? Rugby League or Paddock games? The thing is, we would like to keep some things for members on Paddock FC, and the streaming will be one of them. The other thing is, streaming's fucking hard, and very, very like labor intensive, and I am probably going to be looking for someone that can do commentary for Paddock FC. We'll be able to stream them through the app, or we'll hit your MailChimp with the link for those every week. That might be in the next couple of weeks, but I could do with finding someone that can commentate those things. So if anyone's interested, give us a shout on that one. So yeah, like we probably could stream on YouTube, but I won't be streaming it on YouTube. Jed says, oh, he's talking about hurling. Does Vimeo have live? It's not about whether the video sharing platform has live. It's about whether or not the software delivery has got it and all that sort of stuff. BVSM says United are robbed by Ajax for Antony and not even surprised. We really were. Altered Shape says played rugby league at school. They don't go near it now. Yeah. Whitterbird says, what does Piers Morgan make me... Can't read the rest of that. Why is there's a love heart in the middle of the word at the side here, and I can't actually read. Make me feel his career is carried by United in my eyes. I got a lot of feelings for Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan was the editor of the Daily Mirror when they had the dartboard for David Beckham on it. Piers Morgan was the editor for the Daily Mirror when they fabricated torture photos which made the British Army look horrendous and put people's lives in danger. How the fact he was able to still fucking walk after that, I don't know. Let alone the way he conducted himself over everything with Ronaldo and all that sort of stuff. He can go fuck himself in a big, big way. Right, I'm going to roll it anyway before it gets too late. But cheers, everybody, for tuning in, as always. I'm going to be working from home, I think, most of this week until they want me in for surgery. But cheers for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in a bit. Laters. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice.